The political royalty of South Africa, if you can call it that, is here. They are attending this final farewell to bid farewell to a son who made a contribution to the struggle for liberation when it comes to the South African democracy. A global icon indeed, an internationalist, someone who made his contribution when it was not fashionable to do so. You have the President of the Republic who delivered that eulogy. Former President Thabo Mbeki is here, former President Kgalema Motlanthe is here, the diplomatic community, the diplomatic corps is here. You are dealing with someone here, or talking about someone who's the former Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister from 1994 all the way to 2008. This is someone who basically placed South Africa's foreign policy on the global agenda on the map. You go to the Middle East, to Asia, to Africa, he was there playing a leading role in ensuring that the country's foreign policy, diplomacy and peacekeeping missions and efforts when there is conflict, he was there. You are talking about Burundi, talking about the DRC, you are talking about Sudan, talking about Israel and Palestine. He was at the forefront of trying to push hard for the for the Palestinian people to be free. Minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, joins me now. Surely she would know better than me when it comes to Aziz Pahad. As a young leader of the ANC, what are you taking away from Aziz Pahad's life?
Thank you for the question. And as we say our farewells to him and get Allah to rest his soul, we as a younger generation, we have much to learn from him. His contribution in the rebuilding of Africa, it's as you have referred to in your opening, it's quite important. So what we need to celebrate his life with is to make sure that we consolidate the peace in the DRC, and as South Africa, we need to make sure that the Eastern DRC is stable. And he passes on when there is a resurgence of military coups and civil wars in the African continent. We have a responsibility again, as he would have done during his tenure, to make sure that Sudan is stabilized, to make sure that the Sahel is supporting ECOWAS is stabilized. And for us, that will be a significant milestone. But most in particular for us in Africa, we need to make sure that Western Sahara is completely free and an independent state that can operate on its own. But like it was quoted during the service, that South Africa could never be free when the people of Palestine are not free. So what we owe the legacy of Aziz Pahad is to ensure that the two-state principle is upheld, and it's not only a principle, but we can realize a two-state for Palestine, which coexists side by side with Israel, and the people of Palestine are free.
He believed in dialogue even when it was not fashionable to do so. Even his staunch enemies, political enemies and critics, he opened the window for talks and negotiations. He was a diplomat in that sense, and something that appears to be lacking in the modern day South African society, and most leaders are impatient with the long-term game of negotiations and talking, and all the current tensions and conflict in the region and in the world will be resolved through negotiation and dialogue.
That's very true, but if you have noticed, the role that we've been playing as South Africa has been the role of engaging with all parties. We have said we are non-aligned, we don't choose parties, we engage with everybody. I think it's part of the lessons we've learned from people like Aziz and others before him, that we must engage. We engage with Russia, we engage with Ukraine. You've heard during the UN speech of President Zelensky of acknowledging our role as South Africa in the work that we are doing to ensure peace there. But we are also engaging with everybody. So even in the current engagement, the challenges that we have within the continent, we engage with all parties, formally and informally. So that's why the president sends envoys to engage, and we sent. You'll recall that there were the Ethiopia challenges of recent were resolved in South Africa. We offered the space for everybody to engage. I think true to it has become a symbol of South Africa that we engage with all parties. We need to translate it on the home ground and home front. But our president engaged also with the opposition parties, leaders of the opposition. When there are important decisions, he calls them in and engages with them. I think we need to just consolidate on that, and we'll learn to be patient.
He was very vocal and in support of issues affecting women in particular. He believed in women emancipation and upliftment, not on the basis of gender, but on the basis of capacity.
He did more than that. It was not only on capacity, he made sure that he then reaches out to build that capacity within women and younger people. There are a number of younger people who rose in the ranks because of his mentorship and his guidance, and also women who rose because of his mentorship and guidance. And because he likes to talk and engage, he'll engage you without even the qualms of the stature of a person he was. He'll sit you down and talk to you. If not sit you down, he'll grab you and you walk with him as he chatted to you. You heard what the son was talking about his father. The relationship is how he related with us as younger people in general. So as we lay him to rest, we are going to miss his guidance. We are going to learn and take forward what he has taught us and make sure that South Africa is a better place for all and Africa is a better place for all.
You must indeed take away from him, because he departs at a time whereby, as the governing African National Congress, you are facing a number of issues that would require his wisdom and that of other veterans of the ANC. How do you ensure that what they've been talking to you about as the leadership of the ANC, because Aziz Pahad has made his views known publicly about some of the challenges that the ANC is facing, and where you have misgoverned, he's been very vocal in that.
I think you must give us credit. That's why we've embarked on a program of renewal, and we have said it's not unity at all costs. What is important is the renewal of the ANC, and we are the first ones to acknowledge where we've made mistakes. Our president has gone out and said we've made mistakes here and we're correcting in this manner, and that's why we are here, because there's a program for renewal and there's an acknowledgement by everybody. Even the last conference that we had, the national conference, put a consolidated plan on renewal, including work that is being done actively. As the NWC, we've been visiting provinces to ensure that the renewal program is not just a conference resolution, but it takes place even in the provinces and the regions. We've visited regions. You have been with us in those talks.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni there, basically reflecting on the life and times of Aziz Pahad, someone she would have known for a very long time, a leader that has been described as selfless, very disciplined, but most importantly, who made his contribution during the liberation struggle and in a democratic South Africa, as he's being laid to rest here behind me at this cemetery.
And as Pamela, thank you very much. What you had highlighted, I think, is one very fine balancing act that the ANC is going to have to strike, especially with the general elections coming in 2024. The Batupele principle, I heard President Cyril Ramaphosa quoting Aziz Pahad, having said that the Batupele principle has essentially disappeared as mist does under the sun, and that is something that needs to be reinstalled if the ANC is to indeed again become trusted by voters for them to govern.
Indeed, I guess what is the most challenging part for the ANC in this regard is that they are losing a number of credible leaders, a number of well-known leaders, well-established leaders who made their contribution. And currently what will need to happen is that, if I can ask my colleague here, Tami Kamane, to come with me, we will have to unmount the camera and get closer to where Mr. Pahad is being laid to rest, because I want to get more guests that we can interview and talk to. Please bear with us as we try to make our way to this, or closer to the cemetery. The ANC is struggling and battling with credible leaders. It's been plagued by a number of political challenges. It's a party that is facing serious challenges when it comes to governance in this country. It has misgoverned in some instances. A number of positives have been registered. They have been able to deliver houses to the people, water and electricity, but currently some of those services are under threat. The electricity is not stable, the energy grid. So what is currently happening, as we see more and more people who have come out here to pay their last respects and bid farewell to Mr. Aziz Pahad. They are here to ensure that they are here to support the family that has gone through a lot of difficult period. If you take into account that this family has lost 3 brothers in a row, and those 3 brothers to South Africa, they may have been political leaders, they may have been struggle stalwarts, but to some people, especially family members, those were just, brothers, they were siblings, as we see. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe, who also came here to pay his last respects and to bid farewell to Mr. Aziz Pahad is also here. Let's see if we can get a word with him. Mkhulu, sorry to disturb you. We are so sorry about that. Just a quick one on Mr. Aziz Pahad. I know you are not part of the program. No. We are live on ENCA. Just your reflections.
Well, no, I can only say may his soul rest in eternal peace. Comrade Aziz was a role model to us, very humble human being, loving person, who understood that all progressive struggles are basically based on love of the people, love of the land, love of self. Yeah.
He lived and strived for peace, whether in the Middle East, in the Great Lakes region, here in Africa, in Asia. He was at the center of South Africa's foreign policy. Right. How do we emulate his legacy and his leadership, but how do we honor him by making sure that selfless leadership and servant leadership is upheld?
Yeah. Well, he's left us with all those lessons and examples. It's for us really to live up to that and emulate his good example. Yeah.
He departs at a time where the ANC needs his wisdom the most, heading to the elections and having faced a number of challenges, leadership challenges.
Well, that also is part of, the lessons that you'd have bequeathed to the younger generation. And so for him, really, is had good innings. It's time for him to rest, and we wish him, eternal peace, because he was a man of peace.
So thank you very much for time. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe there reflecting on Mr. Aziz Pahad. Let me see if we can try and get some more reaction from those who are here to pay their last respects and to basically bid farewell to Mr. Aziz Pahad. We will just walk across here so that we will show you some of the visuals. We have already spoken to some of the people who are here, including former President Thabo Mbeki, who's been here. There are other business people. There are diplomats here. There are ambassadors. There are people from the diplomatic corps. There are people from the business community. And they are just struggle stalwarts who are here to pay their last respects. So that's what is currently happening. And as you can see, the family members and just trying to ensure that they are here up until the end. Mr. Aziz Pahad is being laid to rest. His gravesite is just next to that of the late ANC Deputy Secretary General J.C. Duarte, and I see there is also Ibrahim and Hugh Masigela not far from where Mr. Aziz Pahad is being laid to rest.
As the Heroes Acre, of course, as you're saying, has very prominent South Africans who had been laid to rest there, and Aziz Pahad now at his final resting place, many coming out, including members of the press, political royalty, as you referred to earlier on, and family members. But just if you look at where he was born, in the eulogy delivered by the president, it was almost inevitable that he would become this charismatic, peaceful leader and servant of the people as well, because he was surrounded literally by not only the political consciousness, the ANC officers being in his hometown, together with the first law firm that was opened by Oliver Tambo and President Nelson Mandela, and that his home indeed was a hub, where people that were persona non grata during the political struggles of the day would come there and be able to try and form a new dispensation. Spamandla?
Indeed. I mean, if you take into account how his political life transitioned from being a freedom fighter and being someone who served in government from a very young age, he is someone who had to come and ensure that, indeed he played his part. I just want to take a walk and go across, because I see there is Mr. Charles Ngabula, the former General Secretary of the SACP and former Ambassador, we will just come this way just to get reflections from Mr. Charles Ngagula. These are the leaders who would have known and worked with Mr. Aziz Pahad for a very long time. Molweni somlomo ninjani? Niphilile somlomo noBaba uNgagula. Ngiyacela somlomo kancinci nje somlomo. Your reflections on Mr. Aziz Pahad, please.
You know what you heard today, if you did not know Comrade Aziz, it's exactly who he was. The speakers painted a picture of the Aziz we've known since some of us were very young. So I'm very emotional, I must say, disturbed about it, but we also know that Comrade Aziz has been sick for a long time. And, you know, in Xhosa we say, ebesisi sisiziba senyathi, or something like that. It was institutional memory of the African National Congress, institutional memory of the solidarity movements, and would always challenge people as to what it is that we need to do to make sure that the solidarity we received during those days when we were fighting for the liberation movement, that we continue to do so for Palestine, that we continue to do so for Sahrawi, and we continue to do that against the sanctions on Cuba. So for me, I'm very happy. I think he got a funeral, a send-off he deserves. It was a celebration of his life. I'm also particularly happy that the president gave him an official funeral. Comrade Aziz deserved all of us to be here today to celebrate his life.
I'm sure you would have been happy knowing that during the 9th BRICS Parliamentary Forum, you signed a memorandum of understanding with progressive forces, something that he, together with Baleka Mbete, have been pushing hard for many years.
Something we people have been struggling to do for the past, I don't know how many years. And strangely, even as we were coming together when we were convening, we kept on sending copies to people to say, are you ready to sign? Are you ready to sign? But this time around, when they arrived here, and we said after COVID, we're having a physical meeting of the BRICS Parliamentary Forum, everybody somehow was very eager to sign. But I also think that what made that, what prompted people to take that decision, it is because we had commissions. And in these commissions, we discussed everything and everything which impacts on us and the forum at large. So whatever it is that is contained today in that memorandum is a result, it's an outcome of a discussion which people participated in commissions. So I'm very happy, and that's the least I think I've achieved as a speaker.
But also as an ANC member and leader, Aziz Pahad was very passionate about issues affecting women and young people in particular.
One, Aziz empowered young people. You know, when we get to the age where we are, sometimes we find it very difficult to give knowledge, to transfer information, to empower young people. And we think that we're still young, but in fact we are not. So Aziz is one of those. That's why you heard there that we have a number of young people who were here, who are products, were mentored by Comrade Aziz. So I'm very grateful. I am a woman. I've been a leader in the Women's League, as you know. I've been in leadership for quite some time of the African National Congress. The one thing I will forever treasure is the fact that Comrade Aziz would not shy away from walking up to you, give you information, walking up to you, correct you if he believes that what the statement you've made is incorrect. So I'm happy. I'm happy that we're part of this send-off.
He was very generous with his time and with his knowledge and wisdom, but currently he departs at a time where you, as the ANC, would have needed him the most and his wisdom. You are going to face a grueling election, a number of challenges, a number of misgovernance issues as the governing party you have been grappling with. How are you going to ensure that you honor his legacy moving forward?
You know, the best way of honoring Comrade Aziz's legacy is to listen to one another. Because even if he were, let's say he had been there still, and we are going to an election, right? As I say, Aziz had a lot of wisdom in him. He was he was a walking encyclopedia. But it depended now on us to listen to what he has to say, to impart that knowledge which he has on us. So I'm just saying, for me, I say this every day. I think we would have less problems if only we could have time to listen to one another and not talk past one another. Because when we listen to one another, then we learn from one another and we are able to correct our mistakes.
Thank you very much. The Speaker of the National Assembly talking to us, reflecting on the life and times of Mr. Aziz Pahad as dignitaries are making their way, leaving this cemetery. Tami, my brother, please turn around, walk in front of me before you trip and fall. Let's just go there where there are still some few dignitaries and mourners who had come to bid farewell to Mr. Aziz Pahad. But that's it from us. It's the end. It's the wrap here after laying to rest Mr. Aziz Pahad. From now on, it's up to his family, his political organization, the ANC, and the people of South Africa to at least remember his contribution for the liberation of this struggle and what he stood for moving forward. Those who are tasked with honoring his legacy will have to ensure that his memory lives forever.